Hallo zusammen! I've just finished a video in which I tried to speak Mandarin Chinese for the first time ever, and now we're gonna switch over to another Asian language, Japanese. Yes, don't know anything about Japanese. Maybe one or two cliche-ish words that everyone knows, but that's about it. I'm gonna watch a video by Japanese Pod 101, link to the video in the description of course, in which they teach how to introduce yourself in Japanese. And to all Japanese viewers out there, thanks for tuning in the first place, I really appreciate that. And second, I hope I'm not gonna butcher your language all too much. I'm trying my very best. Let's begin.
はじめまして、私はひろこです。よろしくお願いします。I'm Hiroko. I'm pleased to meet you.
Hi.
I just introduced myself in Japanese. In this lesson, you're going to learn how to introduce yourself in Japanese. There are 3 sentences to do this, and it's super easy. And you're going to learn them all right now. So
Okay.
in just 3 minutes, you'll be able to introduce yourself in Japanese. Okay, here's
Cool.
the 3 lines. はじめまして Nice to meet you. 私は Stick your name here. です。私はひろこです。And よろしくお願いします。
Okay, so DESU, I've seen that before, I know that, and I know those phrases, like I've heard them somewhere. I have a Japanese friend who's living in Düsseldorf, Germany, because there's a big Japanese community there, and I think I've heard him saying that at the Japantag, which is an annual event usually when it's not a pandemic going on. I've been there multiple times now with him and other friends, including a Germanized. Okay, first one.
はじめまして Nice to meet you. はじめまして
Hajimemashite. Hajimemashite. Hajimemashite.
はじめまして
I think what I did there, which is kind of wrong, I guess, is really pronouncing, verbalizing the J like an English J. I think I said G, but I think it's more like J. A bit softer, but still out there.
はじめまして
Hajime mashite. Hajime mashite. The I in shi, it sort of gets dropped the faster you pronounce this, at least it seems to me. Like hajime mashite.
はじめま
Meh. So it's rather meh, not me. Hajime mashite. Hajime mashite. I think, yeah, that's kind of quite okay. I hope, I don't know. We'll see.
This expression means nice to meet you. はじめまして literally means for the first time.
For the first. Okay, interesting. So in German that would be schön Sie kennenzulernen. Formal. Or schön dich kennenzulernen. Informal.
This phrase is often the first thing said when introducing oneself and appropriate for all politeness levels.
And that is also something that I've learned or like heard of, that there are multiple variations of one expression depending on the context, like depending on whom you're addressing. If it's a young person, an older person, it seems to me like there are more variations of expressions than general expressions that you can use. But this is cool to know, like hajime mashite seems to be more general and not really specialized and like really specific for a really narrow single context. I can appreciate that.
Next we have 私はひろこです。I'm Hiroko. Now, Japanese has one tricky point. The verb comes at the end of the sentence.
Oh.
So, 私, I, 私は, my name is Hiroko, so I put Hiroko. です, am. I, Hiroko, am. It's kind of like an English to be.
Ah. Interesting. So for me it would be 私は Dave this. Like the U at the end doesn't really get pronounced, I don't think. Even though it's desu, like desu. 私は Dave this. Mein Name ist Dave. My name is Dave. 私は Dave this. I think I I'm pretty happy with this one. Pretty confident.
Finally, we have よろしくお願いします. It's pleasure to meet you or pleased to meet you. よろしく.
Yoroshiku. Yoroshiku. I've said that before in my Mandarin Chinese episode. The sound at the end of certain words in Chinese, and it seems to be quite similar in Japanese here. They sort of remind me of the German schwa sound. At the end of, like, for instance, fragte. It's an E, a German E at the end, but it's pronounced fragte. And it seems to be kind of similar here. Yoroshiku. Yoroshiku. Yoroshiku.
お願い. お願い. お願い.
Okay.
します.
So, interesting, recurring thing. The U doesn't get pronounced there, at least it seems to me. And there seems to be a really distinct pause, like it's not gai, but gai. Yoroshiku onegai shimasu. Yoroshiku onegai shimasu.
よろしく.
Once again, the I also sort of gets dropped there, I think. So maybe I have to be more careful with this. Yoroshiku onegai shimasu. Shimasu. Or like, and then it also has to get dropped more in the last shi. Yoroshiku onegai shimasu.
します. します. します.
So this is interesting. When she pronounced every single part, let me put it this way in general terms, I don't know if it's a syllable or a word, she actually said shimasu, like the s. But when it comes to the pronunciation of the whole thing combined, the U, like the shimasu, doesn't really get verbalized, I don't think. Maybe I'm wrong though. Shimasu. Shimasu. Or like really just slightly, like really like 1% pronunciation there of the shimasu. But it's interesting. I love this. I love this. And she is doing a great job, I think, at teaching that and showing how it works, the different syllables, like different parts, different details, pronunciational details. That is really, really cool. So big thumbs up for me.
よろしくお願いします. This phrase is contextual and gets its meaning depending on the situation. This literally means, please be good to me. It is the commonly used expression which corresponds to, it's a pleasure to meet you.
It's actually a really cool thing to respond to that, now that I'm thinking about it. Like, please be good to me. Because at the end of the day, I don't want to get overly like philosophical here, but treat others the way you would want to be treated yourself, right? That principle, the golden rule, in a way, more or less, sort of refers to that idea, I think. And I like that thought, that idea. I'm gonna be good to you, please be good to me too. Sort of. Maybe it's just like a phrase similar to saying, how are you in like American English, even though you don't want to necessarily know. It's just a thing you say. I'm trying to think of a German equivalent to this one. Maybe it would be something like, simply saying, ebenso, gleichfalls, same to you, right? I feel the same. Maybe it also is a reference to Japanese culture and the way people interact with each other, respecting each other. Just a cool thought though, and a cool thing to say. I like that. Please be good to me.
You can often hear these phrases while somebody is bowing. よろしくお願いします. See all these words? We're gonna say the exact same thing with ta-da! These two words. First we have ひろこです. So you just put your name here and です. ひろこです. I'm Hiroko. This means exactly the same as the other sentence we looked at. I'm Hiroko. 私はHirokoです. But it's okay to say ひろこです without
like a short
私は
form.
I. The I
This.
is implied.
I think it's always cool when you are able to do something like that in a language. Even implying something shows that people have thought about how to express themselves the best way, like the shortest way, the most on point way. And something like we have that in German as well. Freut mich. You would drop the S, the neuter personal pronoun, third person singular. Es freut mich. You would just say freut mich. Right? Because the S is implied. It's pretty much a similar situation.
So in sentence 2 we have よろしく
よろしく
and no お願いします but it means exactly the same thing. So a very informal introduction is よろしく、ひろこです。
Yoroshiku, Dave desu.
Please be good to me.
Because this was my first time speaking Japanese. I love learning more about languages, how they work, how they relate to cultural aspects and whatnot. So this is always interesting, and I might make a follow-up video or 2 or maybe 3 at some point in the future. Feel free to tell me how I did in the comments, and also feel free to share this video with other people that might also be interested in this, because that's the best way to support your favorite YouTubers, creators, whatnot. Thanks for doing that in advance, greatly appreciated. I'm your Vlog Dave. Thanks for watching. Tschüss und bis zum nächsten Mal.